You'd be hard-pressed to find justifiable reasons for why we're looking at long-term incarceration and especially life without possibility of parole for children. So I think that just needs to change to be aligned in what we already know, both brain science and just practical and anecdotal life experience.
This is Abdullah Latif. He knows firsthand what it's like to face life imprisonment as a young person. When he was 19, he was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole for participating in an unarmed robbery at 17 years old that resulted in a man's death.
I engaged in an unarmed snatch and run robbery, during the course of which the individual was thrown to the ground, sustaining non-life-threatening injuries. However, he went to the hospital for treatment. Complications ensued, and he ultimately died 18 days later of cardiac arrest. And the older adult accomplice and myself was found guilty of felony murder and sentenced to life without possibility of parole.
Despite being 17 years old when he participated in the robbery, Latif was sentenced as an adult and sent to an adult facility.
In 2017, the United States Supreme Court decided a case that essentially invalidated my sentence. I was resentenced to a term of 30 to life. I had already served 31 years, so I was immediately parole eligible, and I was released on parole in October of 2017.
When the youth court was founded in the 1800s and 1900s, we just made it up. It just felt right. 16-year-olds felt like adults in some states, 18-year-olds felt like adults in other states. That's about the time when people were leaving their families' homes, when they were getting married, when they were starting jobs on their own. And so we just, we went with the mores of the time.
This is Vincent Schiraldi. He's a senior fellow at the Columbia University Justice Lab and a lifelong juvenile justice advocate and expert.
Of course, now we have MRIs. We're able to look at brains and see what changes as people age from adolescence to young adulthood to older adulthood. Kids really are different in important ways that matter from a jurisprudential standpoint.
It's 2022, but our juvenile justice system has barely changed since its inception in the 1800s.
During the 70s in the United States and 80s and 90s, the whole country, not just the juvenile system, but the whole adult prison system,
America's public enemy #1 is drug abuse,
took a turn for the worse.
These proposals will toughen our laws against drug criminals.
That's the birth of mass incarceration that we're in now, and the juvenile system as well. The notions of rehabilitation were thought of as kind of old-fashioned, and kids needed to be punished and held more accountable.
They are not just gangs of kids anymore. We have to bring them to heel.
And so lots and lots of states started passing laws to lock more kids up in the juvenile system, but also to lock more kids up in adult prisons and jails.
These changes to how youth were treated in the justice system weren't rooted in evidence that kids suddenly evolved to mature at faster rates. In fact, the research is clear that they don't.
Young people are more volatile in emotionally charged settings. They're greater risk takers, especially when they're around their peers. They're more peer influenced, and they're less future oriented. They don't think about what this action today could mean for their future.
We know kids don't have the same decision-making skills as adults, but does locking them up yield any positive results?
Trying and incarcerating kids with adults just basically doesn't work. When we do it, they come out worse, more likely to get rearrested, and with worse life chances. Young people who are Black or Latino get tried more frequently as adults, get convicted, and get incarcerated at much, much higher rates than white kids do, even when those white kids are similarly situated.
It's pretty clear how the system is failing children, especially kids of color. So what's the solution?
There's a few things that all states should do right now. One is, if you think a kid ought to be tried as an adult, that should be the judge's decision. It should never be automatic, and it should never be just the prosecutor that gets to pick. 2, we should never put a person under the age of 18 in an adult jail or prison. No matter what they've done, they should stay in a juvenile facility till at least age 18, preferably age 21. And thirdly, nobody who commits a crime as an adolescent should get life without the possibility of parole. Adolescence can never be considered irredeemable.
The impact that it has on your psyche, particularly as a child, realizing that you never really had a chance to live. Just the pain, the anguish, the despair, I carry that in my bones to this very day. That doesn't dissipate, it doesn't go away.
What would you want for your kid. If this was your kid, you'd want them to get some help. If they had to be confined, you'd want them to be confined not with adults, but with other kids in a decent, normalized, and humane fashion. And then when they came back out, you'd want as much help for them to reacclimate to your community as possible. If that's what you want for your kid, that's what we should want for all the kids who go through this juvenile justice system.